happy to sit here and speak with Natascha Riegger, Localization Manager here at Cato Networks. And small disclaimer, Cato Networks are clients of Blend, partners for the last 2 years, so very proud to share with you guys all the B2B localization tips and insight from the success story of Cato's global expansion. Natascha is 50% German, 50% Thai, 100% fabulous, you will see now. And she worked with Checkpoint and Wix, and now here with Cato she established the localization team. And we are going to tell you a bit about how it works, how to do it right. So Natascha, thanks for joining me. And we heard what Cato is all about. Maybe you can tell us a bit about your typical deal size, target audience, geographies, like where do you sell?
Yes, sure. I think I'm not going to go deep into our product. I think Hila did this earlier perfectly already. I'm going to expand a bit on our target audience, our ideal customer profile, the ones that we're targeting with our content. So we're really targeting, we're aiming with the Cato solution is aimed at global enterprises, companies that have like multiple locations scattered throughout the world. They will have, for example, a headquarter, the HQ located in one country, and then in addition numerous offices or even manufacturing or production sites overseas. And their staff usually consists of hybrid or remote work staff. So they're really in need of a network solution that enables them to connect all these locations seamlessly and securely. That's where the Cato SASE platform comes into play. And while we're here to discuss why we do localization in B2B marketing, and while our main market is the US, we also have a large customer base located in EMEA, but also in APJ. So that's where localization becomes necessary. Yes.
Can you explain APJ?
Yes, of course. One of the biggest markets outside the English-speaking markets actually is Japan for us. We also have a lot of business in South and North Asia.
And the typical buyer is a CISO, IT manager, right?
Yes.
So it leads me to my next question. Don't they all speak English? Like you said, to large enterprises, B2B, CISOs, why do you need localization at all?
So that's a good question, and you'll probably be right for the most part. I think I'd like to actually, within my localization strategy, I like to distinguish between 3 different regions. One region is actually, where localization is not just a nice to have, it's a must. I'm talking about countries such as Japan, Korea, or Taiwan. People will simply not consume any language, any content that is not written in their native tongue. And then again, we have on the other side of this range, we have countries or regions where localization becomes a nice to have add-on. Such as regions in the Nordics, where we also have a lot of business and a lot of customers. But there, the native Nordic person speaks English on a really high, even if not native level. And some of them would even prefer to consume, especially technical content, the one that we're creating in English. And then the third region, I guess that's where it becomes more tricky. I'm talking about regions such as the DACH region, where the average person, especially the ones, the CEOs, CIOs, that work in IT does speak English fairly well, would still prefer to consume content in their native language. Because at the end of the day, I think you always yield a greater impact if you reach people in their native tongue. Like even every decision maker I think it's something that we're all also familiar with when we just correspond differently when people reach out to us in our native language, even though, I guess...
So it's about clarity and trust and credibility.
Yes, trust, that's a good keyword. I think you can actually really create trust by speaking people, addressing people in their native tongue.
That's why I put this quote on, like...
That's a good quote.
Yeah. So even B2B, cyber, security, networks, they prefer to read it in their native language. So let's talk about localization in general. I don't know how many people here are familiar, but Is it all about translation? What is it? Can you tell us?
So I might slip up sometimes, so I'm sorry, I want to apologize in advance, but I really don't like to use the word translation because it's not translation. It's not like we take existing content in English and just translate and then translate it to a different language, put it on a language website, and that's it. That's not what happened. That's why I like to use the word localization, because we really, first of all, we don't localize everything that we have from English into different languages, because first of all we don't have the bandwidth, but also it's not necessary. We really try to select, like, try to create beforehand a smart multilingual content strategy to make sure that we select the adequate language, the adequate content, the right topics for each market. And then when we start the localization process, we actually adapt the content, make sure that we, adapt it to the local nuances, make sure that we're using the right vocabulary to reach the local audiences. And then, we really offer try to offer a 360 degrees experience. So we also localize the visuals, make sure that this is also adjusted to our local audiences. And at the end of the day, the end product that's also what we try to do, obviously, is to distribute and publish it on the right platforms. So
it's all about thinking about your target audience, where are they, and the channels they're using, their culture, their habits, humor, and I put here like all the aspects of localization. It's not just about translation. Obviously, the payments, the currency, payment methods, regulation get into place here, the format of words or dates, or how they write even the metrics they're using. And another thing to keep in mind, I think, is SEO, because usually we translate content in marketing, we translate our website, our ads, but we really need to think about keyword and the way people think in another language. It's not necessarily how you would translate your keywords, it's totally different. So you have to have local people in the market, like linguists or translators that know how people in your target audience think. So this is why we talk about localization and not only translation. Thank you. And maybe you can talk a little bit. You joined Cato 2 years ago. You needed to implement a lot of stuff to get it done right. And give us the most important things you did when you started, for people here that want to start with localization as the next growth engine.
So I think my first point of action when I joined here was to actually identify the key regions and the needs that these regions need. Where do we actually need localization, and which kind of content they need, which type of content, which platforms we need to look into. So for these purposes, I worked actually really closely with our regional teams, with our area directors, to make sure that we are aligned on our content strategy. And I think the second action item I had after I understood actually how much demand there is, and I know that I was one person, so I understood that my second action item had to be to automate these localization processes. So one of the first things I did was integrate a so-called Cato tool into our systems. So for the people who are not familiar with this, a Cato is a computer-assisted translation software, and it offers numerous key features that are really essential if you want to make sure that the localized content remains, consistent, accurate, and also on a high quality level. So one of these key features that it has, it's the so-called translation memory. It really helps us, on the one hand, to make sure that it has actually two advantages. To be honest, on the one hand, it really helps us to save costs, because we're not paying for the same content over and over again. But also on the other hand, it helps to keep our localized content consistent. So we can see, like, we have a dedicated team of writers that see how things localized in the past, and what is the tone of voice, and make sure to keep up this consistency going forward. And another really important key feature is the terminology management that these tools offer. So what I mentioned before, working with these regional teams, before we started localizing into a specific language, we set up a glossary, which I think is something that is a must and really recommended before you start localizing into any language. So this way you can make sure that, you know, industry-specific terms are localized correctly, and for us it was also important, you know, that Cato-specific terms, especially when it came to product names and product features, that they are...
will not translate this.
Yeah, to not
I put here an example of a glossary.
Yeah, so the glossary tells you how to translate certain things and tells you also not to translate certain things.
So just to summarize these great tips, I think the most important thing is to start with the marketing strategy, which market, what channels can we use, what is the demand, what type of content we need to localize, and then put the infrastructure in place, the software, the automation, the partner, the vendor, dedicated team of linguists, which is very important because that way they become part of your team, they speak your language, they know your feature, your product, tone of voice, and they get updates ongoingly, so they are part of the Cato team. For example, the team of translators at Blend. We have here the account manager with me that is working with Natascha, so a dedicated team that knows exactly what you need and how to do it. Let's talk a bit about brand awareness. I know we think about brand, and do you localize only the performance lead generation content, or and also this Porsche and Formula E partnership is very interesting. I want you to talk about it.
So yeah, that's why I also want to about this here as an example. We do a lot of localization efforts are pretty diverse nowadays. We have like our website available in 80 pages. We localize our social media campaigns. We localize our gated content, webinars, all of that. But also one of the things that we focus on is also trying to raise brand awareness in different global markets with our localization efforts. So and there's so many things we do, but this particular example I wanted to show today, because it's something that we're particularly proud of here at Cato, is our technology partnership that we started with the Cato Porsche Formula E team 2 years ago, about 2 years ago. So the Porsche team actually in the Formula E races, for the ones that are not familiar with it, every season actually starts off in a different location. So actually all these racing teams, they have to set up their operational sites for each race in a different country globally. So the Porsche team relies on the Cato SASE platform to make sure that, you know, the pit crews on the racetracks and the operational sites are all seamlessly connected with their headquarters back in Germany, Weissach. So we really wanted to emphasize this partnership that we started with them, and we launched a CTV campaign last year. First, obviously in English, like we do with most of the things, and in the US. And after we've seen actually how successful it was, we decided to expand it to the DACH region, and we localized the whole campaign into German, and that's
Wenn Ihr Unternehmen Sicherheitsrisiken und komplexen IT-Anforderungen ausgesetzt sind, gibt es nur eine Antwort, eine Plattform. Leistungsstarker Schutz, schnelle Bereitstellung, atemberaubende Performance, spielerisch leicht umgesetzt. Cato Networks ist stolz darauf, dem Tech-Heuer Porsche Formula E-Team die weltweit führende SASE-Plattform zur Verfügung zu stellen.
In this case, it was a voice-over localization, subtitle, and all the copy around the ads and everything, right?
Exactly. So now after I've shown it, I'm just realized that probably none of you understood the commercial, so maybe we should have shown the exit one before. But yeah, sorry.
So we have here an audience of B2B marketing experts. Let's talk about what we care about and what we need to measure and to report back to our companies to show results. How do you know it works? How do you bring the budget, the resources to localization, and what do you measure? Tell us a bit about it.
Yeah, that's a very good question, and also sometimes something that I struggle with personally. But so when it comes to this campaign specifically, we ran it for, like, we localized it, like as you said, the whole 360 degrees. We ran it for about a month in the DACH region. It was streamed on the most popular streaming platforms in Germany, Austria, and DACH. And what we could see after running this campaign was a really significant increase on traffic coming from these regions to our website. You can see much more people from these three countries looking up Cato online, which I think is fair to say that it was a success, this campaign. When it comes to KPIs in general, we try to measure everything we do in localization. Every localized webinar or gated content that we upload, we do check how many people are signing up, how many people are downloading it, and
It generates more opportunities than before, right?
exactly. So I mean, overall, obviously, if I publish an ebook, let's say in French versus in English, I'm going to have much more people downloading it in English than I have in French, which is logical because the French-speaking audience is much smaller. What I do see though is that even despite the limited amount of campaign members for the French ebook, for example, the conversion rate is much higher. So I can clearly see that we do add value with our localized campaigns.
Amazing. Our time is very short, so
Oh,
let's
sorry.
see this.
Okay, so this
banners.
is another example I wanted to show. This is an ABM campaign we launched last year, also for the DACH market. So what we first did, we tried to target a set of contacts that the German companies that are headquartered in Germany from the manufacturing industry. And we targeted them on the first round, the exact same amount of contacts, with the exact same context. Also, first with an English campaign, every visual, every content on the social topics, everything was in English. And then about a month or two later, we did it again with the German version. So it was the exact same type of content, it was the exact same type of asset that they were led to, but this time on the German.
So 50% increase in CTR, which is amazing.
Yeah, so to sum it up.
So it works.
It works, yes, it works. Localization works.
We are past our time, but yeah, I know you wanted to give one last tip, very short.
I guess, yes, two tips if I'm allowed to, is first of all automate your processes and also work really closely with your regional teams because you just they know their regions best and they know their nuances best and you will need their input and also find good partners to work with.
Thank you. Right, so I'll skip my joke. Regional teams help you get to know the market, the nuances, the cultural habits. We created a holiday calendar for global audiences. So if you look for special days around the world, what your audiences, your clients are celebrating, it's free, it's on our site, you can scan it. Thank you very much, and we are here if you want to talk after. We have time for a question maybe, yes? Yes, my tips would be not to go in a large scale. Like choose the first market you want to test or target. Look at your Google Analytics, look at your LinkedIn Analytics, see where audiences are coming from to your website and try to do a lean process of even one landing page, like part of the content. And then once you see the results and you can prove the ROI and the conversion, you can grow your spend or your effort. So I would do it gradually and very, slowly. And it doesn't have to be millions of dollars. Today with AI technology, it can be very efficient. The budgets are going down, we see it. The volumes are going up. So people ask me, what do you do? Blend, how is AI impacting you? We use AI, and that's how we help our clients to save their resources and to increase the scale with the same budget or reduce the budget. So we can talk about it, but do it slowly and measure everything before you scale. That's it. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. All right.